Yeah, okay. Welcome everybody to our very first Facebook Business English session. I'm Diana Sit. I'm the Cultural Affairs Officer here at U.S. Embassy Yerevan, and I'm very happy to be able to offer a different way for audiences to engage with us. We hear a lot, especially when we travel outside of Yerevan, how interested people are in especially honing their English skills, and not just because it's a great cultural exchange to have a different language to access, but especially because there are useful and practical applications for having better business English. So thank you all for your interest. It's because of that that we've decided to do this class. I'm very happy that Lolita's here. She is going to be an amazing guide for all of you through what will be an interesting week, 6-week period of not just her giving lectures or information about language and vocabulary, but doing this in a very interactive way. That's part of the point of being able to reach audiences through Facebook. So,
Thank you, Diana. This is a great honor to me to be able to participate in this project, and I'm really honored.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Great. No, it'll be an adventure for you as well. So.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Just a few logistical things that I'd like to point out. So at any time, if you have a question, if you'd like a vocab word clarified, if you have a comment to share, please just continue to do so under the comment section, and we'll be able to see and address as relevant. If there's something that you ask where we're not able to get to it right away, we'll try to follow up throughout the week. And if there's a group of people who are interested in the same concept, then we can try to incorporate that in next week's lesson. Is there anything that you'd like to say logistically?
Actually, we're just meeting every Thursday. I just wanted to remind that once again. Every Thursday, exactly at 5 p.m., I'll be waiting for you.
Okay, wonderful. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start. This should, after all, be also an educational component to it, and I don't want to get in the way of the lesson.
Absolutely.
But thank you all very much for your attendance, and we look forward to the next 8 weeks with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, enjoy.
Okay, dear Facebook audience, I'm very happy to host you at this project. And they say that actually people have created stereotypes about the languages. So they say that Italian is the language of music. They say that French is considered to be the language of love. English is considered to be the language of business. And if you're in a business environment, actually, there are situations that you can never escape. And these situations might concern telephoning, might concern business traveling, might concern meetings as well. And I just wanted to ask a question to you, first of all. Does it ever happen to you that you feel nervous, you feel anxious before a business meeting? If you can answer in your comments, I'd really appreciate that. Actually, if yes, then this session is specifically for you, and we're going to help you deal with such situations. Actually, when we're talking about meetings, the main words to be used are to hold a meeting and to have a meeting. Actually, I'm going to come up with cards. So to have a meeting and to hold a meeting. So when you want to when you want to launch a meeting, you can say, I'm having a meeting today at 5 o'clock. Or, for example, we will hold a meeting to make a final decision. For your future meetings, you can come up with words like to schedule a meeting, or to arrange a meeting, or to organize a meeting. For example, I have arranged a meeting today, or I have scheduled a meeting for tomorrow at 5 o'clock, or are you going to organize a meeting to discuss the main issues? So if actually when the meeting is already on the go, we generally say that we attend a meeting or we go to a meeting. Actually, going to a meeting is more casual than attending a meeting. So if you're in a business format, or if you are in an official profile, better use the word attend a meeting. So here is the card: to attend a meeting and to go to a meeting. And if you have paid attention, during the meetings, there is always someone who is writing somewhere, writing quickly. That person is recording the minutes, right? So he's taking the notes of the meeting. That is, he's recording the minutes. And every meeting has a specific purpose. So people come together to brainstorm ideas for future implementation, or people can develop strategies, or people come together to allocate tasks, or to give updates. So when we say brainstorming, we mean that we try to create ideas for future implementation or something of the kind. When we allocate tasks, it means that we distribute the main points to be implemented. And when we give updates, that is, we try to keep the people informed about how the project is going on. When the main discussions are over, we come to a decision. That is, we make a decision. Okay. I just wanted to draw your attention to a fact that we cannot use the word do a decision. We actually make a decision. Now, what's the difference between making and doing? You do something mechanically. When you want to create something, when you create something from zero, you make a decision. So the decision is not ready-made, waiting for you. You start from the beginning and you create it yourself. Okay. Actually, when we start a meeting, there is always someone who is in charge of the meeting. That is, he's the chairperson. And chairperson is in charge for the whole project and for the whole meeting. So he may start his speech by saying, for example, "Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today." Or, for example, he might say, "Since everyone is here, let's get started." Or, "First, I'd like to welcome you all here. And if there is anyone in the present people who is a newcomer, then first of all, there is a great need to introduce the person. So you can introduce a newcomer by saying, please join me in welcoming, and you can come up with the name. For example, please join me in welcoming Robert Brown. Or for example, you might say, we're pleased to welcome, and again, the name. Or you may say, for example, it's a pleasure to welcome, or I'd like to take a moment to introduce, and the name. After the welcome, you always should come up with presenting the objective of the meeting. You can start your speech like, as you can see from the agenda, and agenda, that's the list of the points that are going to be discussed during the whole meeting. The points or the topics to be discussed during the meetings is also called an item. So every agenda may have different items. So you can come up with producing, as I already mentioned, with the objective, and you can say, as you can see from the agenda, we're going to talk about, or you may say, our main goal today is to, and you may go on speaking, or you may say, I've called this meeting in order to, and you come up with the main reason of the meeting. Once you state the meeting, once you state the main objective of the meeting and the reason, you should come up with, you should ask people for their opinions. And there are specific ways to do it. You can, for example, say, I'd like to get your feedback on, or what are your thoughts about? Or you can also say, what are your views on? And if there is someone who in whose opinion you're really interested in, then you can say, would you like to add and come up with a name? Or for example, you can say, can we get your input and the name, for example, can we get your input, Mr. Brown? And at times, it's not only that you ask for opinions, but you're required to come up with your personal opinion as well. And in such cases, you can come up with 3 different levels of opinions. You can come up with, strong opinion. You can come up with normal opinion and a normal, a kind of weak one. So when you come up with a strong opinion, you can say, for example, I strongly believe that, or you might say, I'm convinced that, or you can also say, I do believe that, and go on with your opinions, or there is no question that, and so on. When you're not that convinced about your opinions, when your opinion is like normal, average, you can say, I think, or I believe that, or from my viewpoint, to my mind, in my opinion. And there is a phrase that I would like to draw your attention to. When you want to be diplomatic and when you want to come up with a kind of unpleasant feedback, unpleasant, so to say, opinion, you can come up with the expression like, to be honest, and you go on speaking. But totally, there's something I want to stress. Whatever you say, maybe your opinion is positive or negative, but the most important thing actually is nonverbal communication as well. I mean, when you start talking, you've got to be very specific about your manners, about your body language, because sometimes your body language might talk louder than your words. Okay, when you're not that sure, that certain about your opinions, that is, your opinion is a kind of a weak one, you can start with like, it seems to me that, or it's possible that, or I tend to think that. It's like when you have specific doubts, you're not quite sure, but you really tend to think in a way or another. And sometimes it happens that during a meeting, you either agree with someone's point or you disagree. And again, there are specific expressions to show your agreement or a disagreement. In this case, you can come up with strong agreement. If we deal with an agreement, you can come up with normal agreement, or you can come up with partial agreement. When you strongly agree with someone, you might say, I'm sorry, you might say, I couldn't agree more, or you can say, I strongly agree that, and you go on. Or for example, you might say, I'm absolutely on the same wavelength. Or you could just as well say, you're absolutely right to say that, to express your strong agreement with someone. If your agreement is normal, you can just like say, exactly, or I agree with you here, or I'm with you when you say that, and you go on. If you come up with a partial agreement, then you might say, well, it depends. And of course, your body language starts talking. Or for example, you might say, I agree with you in principle, but, and you might go on with your objections or something of the kind. As to disagreement, you've got to be a bit careful here, because this is really culture specific. Actually, in Armenian, when you want to express your disagreement, you might say, yes, this had hamadzайн chem, and it might not sound that rude. I mean, that's normal in Armenian. But for example, if you say, I don't agree with you, or if you say you're wrong, that might sound a bit, clumsy and at times really impolite. So to avoid this, cultural nuances, you could just say like, I don't think so. This is the most widely spread one. Or you could just as well say, I'm afraid I disagree, or I'm not sure about that, or just simply not necessarily, or I see it differently. I see it from a different corner, or something of the kind. And sometimes if you're in the charge of a meeting, there might be cases when disagreement arises. And if you are in charge of the whole meeting, you've got to settle the dispute. The best way to avoid such situations is to say, okay, let's move on. I think we can agree to disagree. And as you move on during the meetings, you can come up with different suggestions. And your suggestions might be, again, normal, strong. And if you come up with a normal suggestion and you want to express like average, not very enthusiastic suggestion, you could come up saying, how about, or we could, or you can just as well say, what if we, and go on with your suggestion. If you want to insist on your point, if you want to express your enthusiasm about a specific suggestion, you might say, for example, I suggest that we do something. I want to draw your attention to a point here. Armenians who speak English generally come up with a very, very widely spread mistake by saying, I suggest to. A huge no to that. You cannot say, I suggest to go there. When you come up with the expression of I suggest, you've got to come up with, I suggest that we go there. I suggest going there. Or you can just say, I suggest that we should do something. And when you're in charge of a whole meeting, sometimes you come up with situations when you've got to interrupt people. Not because of something negative, but because, for example, you want to express your own ideas, your own comments, you want to make your own comments, or just to stop very, very long speech. Not, again, to sound rude, you might say, may I have a word? Or, for example, you might say, if I may step in here to say that, and you go on with your comment. Or you can just as well say, could I just say one thing? Or, excuse my interrupting you, but I wanted to say that, and you go on speaking. If you're in charge of the whole meeting, you have to control it. There are people who like controlling, there are people who do not like controlling, and still you've got to cope with a situation. And you can go on by saying, for example, I think we have spent enough time on this topic. If you feel that you're really getting out of your time, you can go on saying, like, let's move on to another item, to the next item. Or you can say, for example, if there are no further developments, then we can go on by saying, we can go on by discussing, or you can say, we're running out of time, we're short of time, and let's go, let's skip, for example, item 3. Remember the word item? We discussed it today, that what is an item? An item is a point in the agenda. So you can say, let's skip item 3 and go directly to item 4. And sometimes you can pass the floor to another speaker because, for example, you want the other speaker to get the control of the whole situation. You can go on by saying, next, for example, Jack will tell us, or when you want specifically to address him, you can say, the floor is yours, Jack, please, and he goes on speaking. And if at times it happens, at least I have been present at many situations like that. People get away from the main point. Armenians particularly, because they like to talk long and they like to talk about every single detail. So to bring them back to the very specific point, you can say, let's keep it for another meeting. This is like really diplomatic. Or you can say, for example, let's stick to the point. Or you can just as well say, I'm afraid that's outside the scope of this meeting. We can discuss it a bit later, or something of the kind. And finally, the last stage of the meeting, that is the closing section. You can close the section, you can close the whole meeting by saying, for example, it looks like we have covered the main items on the agenda. Or you can say, for example, if there are no other comments, let's wrap up the whole meeting. Or you can say, finally, I declare the meeting closed. Actually, I have decided that that you probably will need some, exercise, some practice. And since we don't have too much time for online, for live streams, I have decided that I'm going to upload exercises to our Facebook page. You will get the exercise immediately, like within an hour after our live stream, and you will take your time to practice the vocabulary. And out of that, for you not to go back, not to rewind the whole thing, I have decided again to upload the whole vocabulary to you. That is, I will do it in the part of the comments. And okay, and I have also prepared a dialogue for you, so that you will get specific training for your whole week, since we're going to meet next time. And our users have come up with questions, and Zoraida Harutunyan says, is that okay? Asks, is that okay to say participate in a meeting? Of course, you can say participate in a meeting. That goes like synonymous to go to a meeting and attend a meeting. Of course, you can say participate in a meeting. That's quite okay. That's neither very casual nor very official. You're quite okay to say that. And to wrap up the whole meeting, our meeting together, I just wanted to remind you once more that we're meeting every Thursday at 5 p.m. On our Facebook page. So I will impatiently wait for you. I will be looking forward to our next meeting. You can be absolutely free to come up with different questions. I will be online and I will try to cover all the questions that you may come up with. So see you next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. Thank you for your attention.